the Rise Up See Red podcast, all about the Arizona Cardinals and the NFL, featuring insider and outsider perspectives. Enjoy the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Now here are your hosts, Jess Root and Seth Cox.
Hello, Arizona Cardinals fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the Rise Up See Red podcast. I'm your host, Jess Root, from cardswire.com, the USA Today NFL Wire site covering the Arizona Cardinals. This is a solo show, recording on a Thursday night. It's episode 431. Just want to get on to record some thoughts on a couple of things that have been around the news, stuff that, one of which I just normally wouldn't talk about. So we are in the dead of the off season, so this is the time of year where Seth and I, the shows will be, it won't be so much about the roster, but about stuff that's going on, rankings, off season stuff. But very interesting came across Twitter on Wednesday night. Cardinals fans, if you've been paying attention to social media, you know that Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio seems to have an axe to grind with the Cardinals for whatever reason, or is just picking on them because it's easy to pick on the Cardinals this offseason. He criticized, if you recall, the Cardinals management the weekend before the draft for going out to Norman, Oklahoma with Kyler Murray for his statue unveiling, suggesting that, bad team, critical draft should be that last weekend, doing draft prep, when the truth is we know that probably most teams that weekend take off. I know the Cardinals at that point had built their draft board and their big board and their rankings, and so what else were they going to do? Doubt themselves, and instead of going out for an afternoon, for a day with Kyler Murray to support their starting quarterback. Anyway, Mike Florio has been on a roll this offseason when it comes to the Cardinals. The latest is rehashing the tampering thing that the Cardinals and the Eagles settled. If you recall, during the draft, actually right before the draft started, the Cardinals made an announcement, released a statement that there was an agreement due to some impermissible contact between the team and then defensive coordinator, Philadelphia Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon, that they had a settlement that they had a swap of picks this year and gained a fifth-round pick next year, but the Cardinals basically were penalized and settled. They lost some draft rankings. They lost some draft capital. They didn't lose a pick, but they moved back as a result of it. Interesting thing is that, we thought this done and over with. But here's the conspiracy theory that he decided to throw out there. Now, I will say that what he wrote was fine, but how he tweeted it was stupid. Because he said, since the Cardinals admitted to distracting Jonathan Gannon in his preparation for the Super Bowl, it could open them up to a lawsuit. Now, first, the Cardinals did not admit to distracting Jonathan Gannon. So that's stupid. That was misleading at best. Let's kind of read from the article on Pro Football Talk. It says, it usually harvests various questions regarding some of my favorite soapbox crusades. He's a conspiracy guy, whatever, but thanks to an email reader sent earlier tonight, these two worlds have collided. I am amazed and disappointed that I didn't think of it without a nudge. Failure to do so, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, this one isn't a conspiracy theory. It's an aggressive legal theory that could be pursued by just one plaintiff and one lawyer. The Cardinals admit they violated the tampering rules by contacting Gannon, then the Eagles defensive coordinator, on the day after the NFC Championship, because the ensuing tampering violation, which the Eagles surely complained about, was resolved with a flip-flop of picks announced literally minutes before the 2023 draft commenced. No one knows much, if anything, about, one, what the Cardinals did, and two, how it might have impacted Gannon's efforts for Eagles in Super Bowl 57. As we suggested in the past, the tampering by the Cardinals potentially resulted in Gannon spending plenty of time that he should have been devoting to the Philly defense to preparing for his Cardinals interview, which happened one day after the Super Bowl. From putting together presentation materials outlining his thoughts for the interview to contacting potential staff members as possible, Gannon spent plenty of time getting ready for the interview, time that could have been spent shoring up weaknesses in his current employer's defense. Such as, for example, the struggles when dealing with plays involving motions and shifts. Blah, blah, blah. The Cardinals violated the rules. They acknowledged it. The violation created a distraction. I disagree. Depending on the total amount of time, whatever. So what does that mean? Yeah. The distraction might have kept him from properly doing his job, which could have undermined the integrity of the Super Bowl. What does that mean for the bettors who wagered on the Eagles to win or to cover? The Eagles were on track after 30 minutes to do both. A legal argument which spring from basic reality that Arizona blatantly violated league rules by planting the seed that then created distraction for Gannon. The distraction kept him properly preparing the Eagles defense. A lawsuit over a phone call. Now that's first. Here's the thing. No one knows much, if anything, about what the Cardinals did. This is false. First of all, the Cardinals self-reported. Now, Monty Austin-Fort, when he was asked about it, he addressed it during the draft, said he made a mistake, moved on, blah, 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 but didn't just go into detail as to what it was. Jonathan Gannon, though, did tell the story. So he wasn't part of the draft coverage. He didn't speak to the media on either the 3 days of the draft. However, the next week he did. And he told the story. It was after the Eagles had won the NFC Championship game. Austin-Fort just made it was a real short and phone call. Was reaching out to him, said, "Hey, just wanted to let you know we wanted to, congratulate him because they know each other. Congratulate him and just let him know that he was on their radar for an interview." I don't know if Gannon. So the long and the short of it is I don't know whether Austin-Fort just didn't know he couldn't contact him or overlooked that, because a real short conversation was just, "Hey, we'd like to interview after everything's over." Any other normal off season, that contact would have been fine, but that contact wasn't fine because they had not previously interviewed Gannon. It is fine during you got the 2 weeks after the conference championships leading up to the Super Bowl. That first week, it is permissible to interview coaching candidates. However, that's only permissible to reach out to them and speak with them if they had already had an interview. And because the Cardinals had a general manager hired to do, they hired Monty Austin-Fort before they started hiring coaching candidates. It created a delay, and so Gannon was not part of the first wave of interviews, which means they couldn't have contacted him until after the Super Bowl. So whether that is neither here nor there. It was a mistake, whether it was skirting the rules or just didn't actually know that was not permissible. The Cardinals self-reported it. It wasn't something the Eagles complained about. The Cardinals reported the contact, and then it was a matter of negotiating with the Eagles whether the Eagles wanted the league to come down or they could come to something. And they ultimately agreed to settle on an agreement of swap of picks and that sort of thing. But the notion that someone could sue, because one, that's not an illegal move. It was just impermissible per league rules. The notion that someone could make the argument to file a lawsuit for their loss of their betting gains over an impermissible contact is absurd. Okay? This is tantamount to suing a guy who drops a touchdown pass in a game. Yeah. For example, of DeAndre Hopkins that played in the Super Bowl and he didn't practice that Wednesday and he was in the wrong spot. Yeah, are you going to sue a team? You're going to sue a player for a mistake on a betting wager. Now, one, that's just absurd and stupid. It's just let's not even go down that route, because if someone even tried it now, I'm 98.99% certain that said person attempting to, if anyone attempted to file that lawsuit, it would be immediately dismissed. But could you imagine opening that Pandora's box of to start then? Because if you can sue a team for a minor distraction, I mean, there's no negligence there. There's also, mind you, there's no proof of any negligence that Gannon did. And to put the blame on Gannon solely for the Eagles giving up their lead to the Chiefs is another absurd thing because, one, they're the Chiefs. Two, the offense didn't help special teams. Like, there are so many factors into that. But if someone could file a lawsuit and win on that, imagine the throwing the interception, hiring a play, and then not even just for the sports books, but for fantasy football, because someone failed to. It would be never ending, and so yeah. Mike Florio here is I sure create content in the off season, but it just seems stupid. It may be, like, honestly, did he have money on the line? That's kind of the feeling that we had in the group chat that I had with Seth, Johnny, and Blake. Johnny, who works for PHNX, Blake, who's a contributor over at Revenge of the Birds. Seth, you guys know from the show. He must be bitter at Gannon and the Cardinals for the Super Bowl loss that apparently wagered money. Who knows? But anyway, yeah, that's kind of an absurd thing, and I don't know why they're talking about it. So yeah. So coming up next on the Rise Up See Red podcast, the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Let me talk something about the linebacker position because some position changes have created some interesting spots. So that's coming up next on Rise Up See Red. We're back on the Rise Up See Red podcast, the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. The linebacker position is kind of interesting because two of the guys we expected to play were Zaven Collins and Isaiah Simmons. However, Simmons has been moved to safety, and Collins appears to have moved outside linebackers and edge rusher. Whether that happens is what. But that leaves Kyzir White, and that leaves presumably if Collins isn't even part-time there's now an open spot at the other inside linebacker position, which leaves things kind of interesting. So what will the Cardinals do at inside linebacker? And this is a question that I kind of wish I had Seth on because it bounced his thoughts, but maybe we'll throw this out at him on the show next week. But there are kind of a couple options there. Maybe, so here are your options. You could do Collins part-time, if they plan on using on the edge. You could do Collins part-time at inside linebacker and outside linebacker. You could go with the rookie Owen Papo, who out of Auburn, athletic freak, has some of the athletic profile that Isaiah Simmons has, not quite the length, okay? So presumably you could see another rookie in the lineup. We expect Paris Johnson to be in the lineup. We expect Michael Wilson at receiver will get some playing time. We'd expect to see possibly one of the cornerbacks get some playing time on defense. Keitrell Clark, 5th-round pick, or 3rd-round pick Garrett Williams. John Gaines, offensive lineman, might get some play. So I mean, yeah, and B.J. Ojulari, outside linebacker, hasn't signed yet. We expect him to see him get some playing time. But if Zaven Collins, you can either go with Zaven Collins playing part-time inside, part-time outside. You could go with the rookie Owen Papo. That's a possibility, although the 5th-round pick out of Auburn, that would be an interesting move to go with that. Because you also look at the personnel that they have at inside linebacker. Two of the guys that they brought back or added this offseason or brought back this offseason are special teams guys, quite frankly. Zeke Turner, minimal playing time on defense in Vance Joseph's defense only, and he's a special teams guy. He's always been. They signed Josh Woods, from special teams guy from the Detroit Lions, and I mean he's been almost exclusively a special teams guy since entering the league. Let's pull up some of the numbers that he has. So if you look at his usage over since he came into the league in got a little slow loading websites. Chrome has been not my friend lately. Since 2019. So he's appeared in 54 games and 1 start. He's got 16 tackles, but let's look at the breakdown when it comes to snap counts. Okay. He played 10 snaps on defense last year. He did play 113 snaps on defense in 2021. He's got 169 total snaps on defense in his career compared to 928 special team snaps. He has played no fewer than 147. That was rookie year. 147 special team snap, 273 the next year with the Bears, 186 split between the Bears and the Lions, and then 322 special team snaps last season for the Lions. Now, he himself has said in an interview he's trying to break down the door to become a defensive player, guy that's known for the defense. But, I mean, if you're looking at how they're building a roster, now we assumed initially that it was going to be a 3-man defense. We thought it was going to be a 4-3, and that we would see Collins, Simmons, and Kyzir White as your 3 guys. As it stands right now, it looks like that Kyzir White will probably be the Mike, and then they'll need another guy for that other position. So is that Collins part-time? We don't know. Again, that you've got Owen Papo, the rookie. You've got Josh Woods and Zeke Turner, but both of those guys are special teams guys, so you wonder. And then you've got one of the moves that we probably we talked a little bit about it, but it's a little bit of an overlooked addition, and that would be Chris Barnes, former Green Bay Packers lineup, drafted out of UCLA. I remember it came out in 2020. I remember talking about Barnes in the draft. Especially that ended up being the year, the Cardinals drafted Simmons. So he was a possibility, possible target or a guy to think about later in the draft. He ultimately didn't get drafted. But as a rookie, he ended up starting 10 games. In fact, he started 23 games over his first 2 seasons with the Packers, and had over 80 tackles as a rookie, 81 tackles the next year. He had an injury last year that limited only 6 games, and so he only started the 1. But Chris Barnes suddenly becomes a really interesting name because he has starting experience. So if Zaven Collins ends up playing more outside linebacker or exclusively outside linebacker, Chris Barnes or Owen Papo, the rookie, are probably your top 2 candidates to play inside linebacker next to Kyzir White, with Zaven Collins getting play off the edge and Simmons playing safety. And that, I would say, would be one of the bigger surprises of things happening this offseason. Because we kind of seen a few things coming, which makes sense. But yeah, so keep an eye on that position as training camp rolls around in July, because one, we want to pay attention to where Collins is practicing. By all accounts, he was getting exclusive work with the outside linebackers, the edge guys, in OTAs in minicamp. And so will that continue in training camp? If you don't see him getting inside linebacker reps, I would expect to see him outside backer, just because it's a new defense. It's a new defense, so he's not getting off-season reps there, they're not going to use him there. But pay attention to who's next to Kyzir White. Will it be a special teams guy that bursts through? Will it be an athletic freak of a rookie? Or could it be kind of a throwaway signing that no one really thought of? Like, oh, they just signed we all made the jokes about how the Cardinals keep signing linebackers. That it was Monty Ossenfort was still Steve Keim adding all the linebackers. Nonetheless, that suddenly is a position of intrigue. I mean, there's lots of positions that we can look at this offseason in terms of the starting line. The cornerback positions, inside linebacker now. You can see left guard, maybe center, But after that, it's mostly backup positions that we're kind of looking at. But that right there, who's going to start on defense? Who's going to start an inside linebacker? Kyzir White is you can write him in with pen. Yeah, there's no problem there. But who's that going to be next to him? We all thought it would be Zaven Collins or even Isaiah Simmons, but looks like both Collins and Simmons have moved positions. So Owen Papo, Chris Barnes, or maybe Zeke Turner or Josh Woods. I don't know. So that's something to think about. The coming next on the Rise Up Series podcast, Mr. Cardinals talk on the web. Let's have one final look at a topic that came up on Twitter today. And it was actually something that Darren Urban wrote for azcardinals.com. Left guard. That's coming next on Rise Up Series. We're back on the Rise Up Series podcast, Mr. Cardinals talk on the web. One final segment that I want to talk about in this show, and that's at the left guard. I want to kind of point your attention to what I kind of talked about earlier in the offseason. Left guard has felt wide open, right? It makes sense. When they re-signed Calvin Beachum, they re-signed Will Hernandez, they signed Yelda Froholt at center, you kind of felt that left guard, they had a number of options there. I'm thinking maybe Josh Jones, when Paris Johnson, honestly, when Paris Johnson was drafted, people were penciling him in at left guard. I don't think that will be the case, but Darren Urban, the main reporter and writer, the senior writer there for azcardinals.com, the official team site, a guy I've known for a lot of years, he just put out his June version of kind of predicting who the starters were going to be, and on offense, guess who they had at left guard? If you've listened to the show, this is a name I've told you about, and I said, and it is Dennis Daley, who was the starting left tackle for the Tennessee Titans last year, who played in place of Taylor Lewan. Well, and in fairness, Daley was pretty terrible last year at left tackle by almost every metric. Titans fans were not sad to see him go, but when they signed him, and he signed him to a 2-year deal, there was a comment by Jonathan Gannon about there was just a comment, offhanded, and we said, and Daley, and we understand he plays guard better. Okay, but he signed him a 2-year deal. He was on the Titans, worked Monty Ossenfort, worked last year. And I said, keep an eye out on that guy. I wouldn't be surprised if Dennis Daley ends up being the starting left guard. People on Twitter were not happy with that. They better not. They better not do it. He's terrible. Well, here's the thing. And I felt this kind of all along. Paris Johnson, he hasn't really gotten any reps at guard. He's been practicing at tackle. It feels like he's probably going to supplant Kelvin Beachum at right tackle. Beachum has minimal guard experience. Minimal. Though he did spend most of his career at left tackle, so sliding over to left guard probably wouldn't be that difficult to do. But Darren Urban predicted that Daley would be the starter in week 1. Now, there's a lot of things that can change, but what he did say, he's there now. Yes, that's what we heard. Dennis Daley has been the off-season first-team left guard. There are other guys. There's some young guys still available. I mean, you've also got John Gaines, whom they drafted. You've got Lacita Smith from last year, Marquise Hayes, the guys the Cardinals, the last coaching staff, absolutely loved him. There was a lot of promise, and the fans loved him too. You've got Josh Jones. Josh Jones hasn't played left guard. Justin Pugh threw it out there that perhaps that he would be a better left guard than right guard, because Jones did play left tackle all through college, but his experience in the pros with the Cardinals has been right guard, which he kind of struggled out. Tackle, he did pretty well, but when he played left tackle was fantastic. So playing left guard probably is an easier way for him to, and Justin Pugh said that's the same for him. He's much more comfortable at left guard than anyone on the right side of the offensive line. That's why he had some of his struggles at right tackle when he was with the Giants. So there was some thought that Josh Jones could be the left guard, but they have options at left guard. So you've got Dennis Daley, 2-year contract. You've got Lacita Smith from last year, a rookie. Mo Hayes. You've got Josh Jones, maybe even Kelvin Beachum. And then on top of that, here's another name to watch out for, Elijah Wilkinson. He's played some guard and some tackle. But the reason why I say, hey, that's a name to watch, is they guaranteed nearly all of his contract. It's a 1-year deal, $940,000 of his minimum salary, which is a little more than $1 million, is fully guaranteed. You don't give fully guaranteed money to guys early in the offseason that you do not believe will make the team. And so I've kind of said, contract-wise, in terms of plans, the rookies can change things, but keep an eye on Dennis Daley, keep an eye on Elijah Wilkinson. And, the early reports right now are that Dennis Daley is the guy. So watch in training camp who's getting reps where. We might be seeing an offensive line of DJ Humphries, Dennis Daley, Yelda Froholt. I'm not convinced that they won't add a veteran center, but he could be the guy. Or he could be Froholt, might be John Gaines. He played a little center in college. He's going to be Will Hernandez at right guard, 100%. There's two positions we absolutely know. It's going to be DJ Humphries at left tackle, Will Hernandez at right guard, and then right tackle. And Urban said this. He predicted that Paris Johnson will be the starter right tackle, and I believe that. I believe that Paris Johnson will supplant Kelvin Beachum and end up starting at right tackle. They love DJ Humphries, and assuming he stays healthy, and if he gets hurt or is re-injured, I think then you look at Paris at left tackle, and you've got a battle of Josh Jones, Kelvin Beachum for right tackle, and things like that. But I mean, I did. Who doesn't like to say I told you so? But I did. I told y'all so. I said early in the offseason, keep an eye on Dennis Daley. I've got a sneaky feeling that Dennis Daley is going to be the starter. Thus far, guys, pay attention. There's things to look at. Is he a guy that the new leadership likes? Now, he didn't have any. Daley has no connections to the current coaching staff, but when your main evaluator, the general manager, signs you from his previous team, that's a guy that he can trust. You gave him You gave him a 2-year deal with roughly half his but he got the signing bonus, and then another $400,000 of his salary is fully guaranteed. That's a guy you're planning on having. Elijah Wilkinson as well. But then you've got a bunch of young guys. So I warned you, just in case. I mean, Dennis Daley might not be the answer, but by golly, pay attention. Pay attention. There's reasons why we said what we said. Dennis Daley could be your starting left guard. That doesn't mean it'll make you happy about it. Hopefully he's better guard than he was at tackle. But he's probably, he can block some. I know the metrics don't look great, but your other options are also kind of unknowns. Elijah Wilkinson has experience. I think he's played more right guard than left guard. And he's played some right tackle. Josh Jones never played guard. You've got Lacita Smith and Mo Hayes, second-year players. Hayes, who didn't play at all last season, with his injured reserve all year. John Gaines, the rookie. That's intriguing. He's that metric about his short shuttle, which suggests that he's going to be an NFL starter, a solid NFL starter for the majority of his career. So, yeah. And then you've got Josh Jones. Maybe Kelvin Beachum kind of plays in there. I don't know. But they're going to try and put the best 5 guys on that offensive line to figure it out. But, yeah. So, with that, that's kind of all I wanted to talk about. Kind of get a short show on there with a few topics in there. Yeah, we talked about the linebacker situation. We talked about the stupid Mike Florio thing about a conspiracy lawsuit and all that, whatever. But that wraps up this edition of the Rise Up C Red podcast. I'm your host, Jess Root. This is episode 431. We'll be back next week with Seth. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the latest edition of the Rise Up C Red podcast. Listen to previous episodes and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Audioboom, or many other podcast platforms so shows are delivered directly to your mobile device. Please give the show a 5-star rating and always support the sponsors who support the show. We'll be back soon for the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Rise up, Red Sea, be Red, Sea Red, and of course, Rise Up, Sea Red.